Hi everyone, this is Brian Phelps with the BGSU EMOD 2020 cohort. Currently, we are in our spring 2019 semester with Steve Cady, who is guiding us in our learning as we dive into facilitating organizational collaboration. In this presentation, we will talk about the process, explore my affinity diagram and mind map, review a potential application, share some final thoughts, and review the references used. What do you think about when you see this picture? Did you think about the beauty? The fall weather? Paradise? A house? A forest? A pond? Yes, those are all elements of this picture. As we have progressed through this program, I have begun to think about things differently, more system-oriented. I started thinking about all the relationships between the elements in the picture and how they impact one another. What about this picture? I wanted to use these pictures as a primer to start us off thinking systematically. Did you think about the relationship between the pilot and the controller on the ground? What about the air traffic controller in the terminal? How about the passengers? The analysis could go on, but I'm going to stop here. Systems thinking is a foundational principle in organization development. The same system thinking mentality goes for implementing change methods in our organizations or communities. As we continue further, we are going to begin our analysis of 9 unique change methods that are intended to accelerate action, enable whole system engagement, and create sustainable results. Before we get into the method analysis, we'll start by talking about my process. First things first, read and research. At the time, it seemed like there was an endless supply of resources at our disposal for getting started with our assignment, learning the technology that we needed to complete the assignment, and learning about the change methods. There was video, documents, books, presentations. Geez, it really seemed like there were so many things pointing in so many directions. I think Mark Twain's quote here captures exactly what I needed to do. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. Exactly. I just needed to dive in and submerge myself rather than overanalyze each and every resource available. Let's talk about the affinity diagram process. An affinity diagram, defined by Hiro Kawakita of Six Sigma Daily, is an analytical tool used to organize many ideas into subgroups with common themes or common relationships. As I began the analysis process, I researched the change methods and started writing down key observations on sticky notes that stuck out to me as key points of focus for the change methods. I had 2 quick lessons learned. First off, I decided sticky notes were not for me. Second, my observations were too long and I needed to make them more focused. I decided short phrases would work much better for grouping items together at a later time. After re-strategizing my approach, I promptly got out my trusty Excel spreadsheet and I was able to progress much quicker through the exercise. I basically created color-coded virtual sticky notes and limited my phrases on those sticky notes to just a couple of words. You can also see my color key on the left-hand side that helps differentiate the change methods. In my affinity diagram, I listed out the 8 design elements across the top of the diagram with a comments box for each one that I used as quick reference guides for classifying my observations. The 8 design elements that we used as buckets for grouping observations were invitation, purpose, system, experience, technology, evidence, values, and mastery. On the right-hand side, you also notice my color coding for the 9 change methods that were analyzed. These were the abundant community, appreciative inquiry, applied improvisation, future search, graphic facilitation, open space, think like a genius, employee engagement, and collaborative loops. Once I got going, it was a matter of classifying my observations into those buckets and starting to take note of some of the similarities. My affinity diagram was completed, and served as an effective tool in making connections between the methods. I learned that the affinity diagram and the mind map are actually very similar tools. The information that we were analyzing and grouping would simply be visually displayed in a different way. Once I did my initial affinity diagram, the mind map process was smooth sailing. I used a free online tool accessed at www.mindmeister.com. It had its limitations with the free version, such as export capability, but I was able to work through those limitations for this project. It produced a decent output and was fairly easy to use. As you can see, my mind map grew pretty large. We're going to step through each element and identify one common theme I noticed in each element bucket. The first element, invitation, really answers the question, why are we doing this change method? The trend that I noticed with invitation was that several of the methods explicitly said that the question needing solved was some kind of large-scale issue or issue of uncertainty. The purpose element answers the question about what are the benefits of using this method. The themes that kept popping up during the evaluation of purpose were themes around improved sharing, accountability, and communication. When it came to system, the who needs to be involved and who will benefit from these methods, the similarity that stood out was having a diverse group of participants and making sure the right people are involved. This includes having the proper facilitation, leadership, consultants, and participants involved from the start. Experience answers the question of how the approach works. In most methods, there were mentions of deep listening, storytelling, discussion, and dialogue. It was clear that for these methods to work, listening and sharing are necessary experiences throughout the change processes. During my analysis of technology, I was actually a little bit surprised regarding the lack of mentioning how we could leverage technology. Some of the methods did mention the use of computers to record, poll, or conference in others, but overall, I did not find technology to be a major component in any of the methods. I looked at evidence as the way we know the method was working. My theme around evidence is the taking of action during and after the change method event. Without action, the change method would not be a success. I also realized that the intent of the evidence element was to capture theory around these approaches. The most meaningful theories that I captured in my mind map were the history of creativity. In each of these approaches, creativity is a key. Trust stood out in almost all methods. It was clearly a core principle and value that plays a role in the success of the change methods. Without trust, we couldn't accomplish anything. When thinking about mastery in relation to these methods, practice and participation were the prevalent themes. As with developing any skills, practice reps are needed, as well as being fully present and engaged when involved in the change events taking place. As I think about moving forward and leaping into the affinity diagram and mind mapping process again, there are several opportunities that jump out at me. A perfect application would be linking commonalities between HR policies in the 3 different districts that my organization resides in. With us being spread throughout the country and not having a centralized HR department, policies and procedures vary greatly from the Cleveland, Richmond, and San Francisco districts. Management teams have employees spread throughout those districts. Being able to review a document that showcases the differences and commonalities would be a useful tool on so many levels. In conclusion, I am happy to have gone through this process. The start was a little bit challenging, but in the end, I've added a tool to my toolkit that I think will provide value to my organization. I was able to manage the complexity of the assignment, prioritize multiple assignments happening at the same time, review a large pool of resources, learn and use new technology, and deliver an end product that I can be proud of. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out the listed references below.